Well, good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News. And we've got some good news for you guys today. You are not gonna believe this. President Trump pulled the most epic tactical move yesterday. First, he promoted Jessie Liu, a crooked U.S. attorney, to a new position at the Treasury Department. And then, once they had filled her position with somebody else, they pulled the nomination. So now she's out of a job and she's out of the government. Also, it looks like Juicy Smollett has been indicted by the special prosecutor in his case. Incredible news. And not to mention, all four prosecutors from Roger Stone's case have now resigned. They are off the case. We've got some posts for you from our favorite Anon. We've got some information on the attacks that are taking place on 8kun, and we've got so much more. So please, everyone, do sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a brief word from our sponsor. Are you guys using a VPN to watch this video? Well, if you're not, you probably should. If you are and it's not Virtual Shield, then you're probably using one that isn't trusted and is selling your data behind your back. Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and Bill Gates are some of the creepiest looking people on the planet, and we are willingly letting them know everything about us on a daily basis. Where we shop, who our family and friends are, what our location is, etc. It goes on and on. Our only protection against these digital tyrants is the use of a VPN and our constitutional right to privacy. A VPN, a virtual private network, is a server where you can log on before you browse the internet, and it basically masks or hides your identity to those nasty, nosy data thieves. It's not complicated at all. You just press a button and wow, you're protected. You can sign up now for a free 30-day trial of Virtual Shield VPN, mobile and desktop. This will allow you to create a secure connection to another network over the internet. Virtual Shield can be used to shield your browsing activity from prying eyes, whether you're on a public Wi-Fi connection, in a foreign country, or just at home. Let me show you guys how easy it is. Alright, so here we are. We'll go to what is my IP. You can see it's right there. Now, when I connect to Virtual Shield, that will mask my actual location, and it now shows that I am here in Chicago, Illinois, and my location is secure. In order to honor the passing of one of the NBA's all-time greatest athletes this month, Virtual Shield is offering a 24% off discount on all VPN plans and all premium add-ons, including Protection Plus, Residential Access, and VIP Performance plans for as low as a cup of coffee. Sign up for a free 30-day trial to use Virtual Shield VPN right now and see what the hype is about. You've got nothing to lose. Go to www.virtualshield.com/redpill78. And remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. Alright guys, thanks for sticking around. First of all, today, in what has to be one of the most epic trolls, the greatest tactical move ever to remove someone from their position, President Trump promoted U.S. Attorney Jessie Liu. And then once they had filled her position, he removed the recommendation and she no longer has a position in the U.S. government. She is out of a job and no longer part of the deep state. Now, Jessie Liu has been involved in some of the most tragic cases that we have witnessed over the last several years. She shouldn't even be practicing law. Honestly, she should be disbarred because she has a history of Brady violations, of withholding exculpatory information from people, defendants in cases, and she clearly has an agenda. Now, she was involved in some really crazy cases over the last couple of years. The first notable one is the Maria Butina case, that Russian national who sat in jail, in prison nonetheless, because she was set up by the FBI. Now, the information about her setup was withheld from her, and the government completely disregarded the fact that this exculpatory information would have been good for her defense. Now, Liu is also involved in the Concord management case. That case was messed up from the very beginning. The government alleged numerous lies about the company in order to tie the Mueller investigation to Russia. Now, Mueller's team stated that Concord and its sister company, Concord Catering, were involved in spreading fake news on Facebook that supposedly impacted the U.S. election. Now, the problem is Concord Catering was not an actual company at the time that they were supposed to have been committing these acts. And there was only $3,000 that was spent on Facebook, not a lot of money to actually impact an election. Now, Mueller insinuated that Concord was led by Russians who didn't want HRC to win, but they were never able to prove that, never able to tie them together, those two things. Now, Concord management's attorneys also famously trolled the deep state, saying that their logic is similar to Tweety Bird saying, I taught a putty tat. Now, in addition, Jesse Liu is involved in the deep state's sham indictment of the courageous Michael Flynn. We all know all about this case. They definitely held information back from Michael Flynn simply because he committed the crime of disagreeing with Renegade's policies in the Middle East. He was a target ever since that point. Now, Flynn's case is still ongoing. It's still costing him lots of money. And this past week, his attorney requested documents from the government pertinent to the case. But the government still refuses to provide those documents, and Miss Liu is deeply involved in this case as well. Now, she's also involved in the James Wolfe case. James Wolfe was the security specialist in the Senate who was indicted for leaking a FISA application to the New York Times. Now, this was a sham from the very beginning. The Senate stepped in asking for leniency, and he was only sentenced to 2 months for his crimes. Now, it looks like Liu is also involved in the Andy McCabe case and was sent to determine whether to bring charges against the former corrupt FBI director, but no more since she's no longer in that position. Now, what's interesting is that Liu was nominated by President Trump in 2017 to be the U.S. attorney in Washington, D.C., and she took over a couple months later. Now, given all of these cases that Jesse Liu was involved in, which were complete miscarriages of justice, it's no wonder President Trump wanted her out. Now, there are some other lawyers that were removed from cases yesterday, also similar to the things that we've seen happening with not only Paul Manafort and General Michael Flynn, but specifically Roger Stone. Let's take a look. All right, so it started out early yesterday. One of the lawyers in the Roger Stone case, the prosecutors, resigned from his position. By the end of the day, 4 of the prosecutors had resigned from their position there, and they did not want to continue on with the Roger Stone case. Now, first, Aaron Zelinsky abruptly resigned, then Jonathan Kravis resigned, and according to a court filing in Washington federal court yesterday, Adam Jed also announced he would withdraw his name from the Roger Stone case. Now, the 4th and final prosecutor on Roger Stone's case has also resigned. Federal prosecutors on Monday recommended that Trump confidant Roger Stone serve an astonishing 7 to 9 years in prison for process crimes during the Mueller witch hunt. Now, of course, Roger is a nonviolent 67-year-old man who was caught up in the Mueller witch hunt. And in this rare move, the Department of Justice has backed down from its abusive sentencing. And now all 4 prosecutors who signed the excessive sentencing guidelines for Roger Stone have completely withdrawn from the case. Now, none of these lawyers for the U.S. government Department of Justice have given a reason for why they resigned, but the Department of Justice said it was shocked at the excessive prison term being sought by Mueller's prosecutors because it wasn't what the DOJ was initially briefed on. So it sounds like they went in and tried to really hammer Roger Stone without actually telling their superiors. Now, President Trump on Tuesday, of course, blasted the sentencing recommendation for Roger Stone as an insult to our country. And it begs the question, did these lawyers resign their position on this case voluntarily, or were they forced out because they went in and tried to slam Roger Stone against the wall with this ridiculous sentencing guideline of 7 to 9 years? It sounds like the Department of Justice and probably Bill Barr were very unhappy when they saw what these lawyers were trying to do. Clearly, President Trump was unhappy, and I can only imagine how Roger Stone feels. Well, now that these lawyers are out, I hope that Roger Stone is actually going to receive the justice that he deserves. Guys, I am telling you, yesterday was such a good day. We also got excellent news in the Jussie Smollett case. He has been indicted by the special prosecutor in Chicago. 6 new charges of disorderly conduct, and I would not be surprised if there was more to come. So Jussie was indicted on Tuesday with 6 new charges of disorderly conduct by the special prosecutor on his case in Chicago, more than a year after he falsely claimed that 2 Trump supporters attacked him with bleach and put a rope around his neck. It turned out that Juicy paid actually two Nigerian brothers $3,500 to help him carry out this fake crime. Surveillance video showed the Osundario brothers purchasing rope, red hats, and other supplies to prepare for the hoax. And of course, this comes after the state's attorney's office, Kim Foxx's office, famously dropped the charges against Juicy. All 16 felony counts against Juicy were dropped and wiped clean from his record. I wonder why that would happen. All charges were dropped, so a special prosecutor was appointed 6 months ago in this fake case, and Smollett may finally be brought to justice. Don't forget, he also lied to the FBI about a threat he received in the mail that contained a letter with white powder. Tired of winning? Not me. You guys, I'm so happy about this. As I said at the beginning, I do think that this is just the beginning of this. This right here is a super serious crime. This is something that's a federal issue. This is not for the state's special prosecutor. The charges that have been brought down are only on the state level. Because of this right here, faking that letter with the white powder, that is definitely something for the FBI to deal with, and I'm waiting those charges as we speak. All right, in the next post, 3856, we have this redrop of the flag with the definition of patriot and the definition of traitor. Now, just to remind you, patriot is a person who loves, supports, and defends his or her country and its interests with devotion. People like us. Number 2 is a person who regards himself or herself as a defender, especially of individual rights, against presumed interference by the federal government. I would say that that also defines us, my friends. Now, the definition of a traitor is a person who betrays another, a cause, or any trust, or a person who commits treason by betraying his or her country. And we know exactly who is represented by those definitions. Now, it says the lines are drawn, and we are given this string of numbers right here. We're going to get into what that string may be in just a moment. And we're asked, define Renegade, Hussein's U.S. Secret Service codename, standard definition. And then define Evergreen, HRC, U.S. Secret Service codename, non-standard definition. Think depopulation. The silent war continues. Wow, there's a lot to unpack here. So let's go ahead and take a look at the definitions of Renegade and Evergreen, as well as that stringer right there. Well, first of all, from my good friend Hive on Twitter, it says, check this. Latest 17 with that stringer right there leads to several things. A world doc, Air Cheese Gatow, and the Indianapolis Star from Indianapolis, Indiana, page 64. So we take a look here first. This is a document right here. I don't know what it means, but it looks like they're talking about things in different languages. Next, we also have this airline information, Air Dubai, Acapulco, Albany, New York, and it also looks like that ZW could point to a flight from Zimbabwe. I've actually got my friends Tootsie and Cyber working on that right now. And then also, it takes us to this right here, the Indianapolis Star from Indiana on page 64. This is from September 29th, 1976. Now, it looks like we can't get to this without a membership or some type of sign-in. Now, right here, the definition of renegade, standard definition, a deserter from one faith, cause, or allegiance to another, or an individual who rejects lawful or conventional behavior. Sounds like that is pretty representative of number 44. Now, a non-standard definition of Evergreen. We know that Evergreen Aviation is a company that was contracted by certain agencies to specifically fly across our skies and dump tons of heavy metals into the clouds, creating fake cloud seeding activities. Also, Evergreen was named by Samar as its agent in Haiti. Looks like it has something to do with shipping containers. Now, if you'll remember, in Haiti, there was a woman who was associated with Hillary Clinton, Laura Silsby, and she was tied to the attempted smuggling of many children out of that country after the events of that terrible earthquake. Now, this is the same country where the Clinton Foundation raised over $10 billion that never went to Haiti, and it was meant to be given to rebuild the country. Now, many people in Haiti are very angry with the Clintons after this, and people want to know where that money went. Well, it turns out it went to lots of different things. Mostly, it was for personal things for the Clintons, including the wedding of young Chelsea. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at some more information. Now, this is from a website called wearethenews.ws, and it includes notables from the message board 8kun. Now, they say it might be useless or whatever, but Evergreen Brook from 1850s discussing religion and depopulation. Found it from a simple Google search. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. All right, and here is that book from Google Books, and it says right here about depopulation, whether this ratio of depopulation is to continue till the native race is extinct and these islands are to become the exclusive abode of white men, can be known to him only who disposes of all things, the affairs of nations as well as individuals, according to his own will. So clearly some information talking about depopulation of native populations. That kind of sounds like what's going on right now with the deep state and the NWO. That is the assumed agenda of the cloud spraying programs that many people see in their skies on a daily basis. Let's take a look at something else. Now, this is also from the notables section. It says, in the pharmaceutical trade, when brand name companies patent new inventions that are really just slight modifications of old drugs, it's called evergreening, and it's a practice that, according to some who have looked into it, isn't doing a whole lot to improve people's health. Typically, when you evergreen something, you are not looking at any significant therapeutic advantage. You are looking at a company's economic advantage, says Joel Lexchin, a professor in the School of Health Policy and Management at York University in Toronto, Ontario. Evergreening has been a hot topic of late because the recent ruling by India's Supreme Court to refuse to grant Swiss pharmaceutical company Novartis a patent for a new version of its cancer drug Gleevec, or Glivec as it's known in some countries. Now, going back to Evergreen Airlines. Evergreen Airlines was the Clowns in America front company for spraying those clouds above us in the sky. Evergreen Aviation, one of the world's largest private aviation companies, admits to weather modification services. On their own website, in the market section for their new supertanker, they state, weather modification among other interesting service markets. And this was copied from their website. It says right here, firefighting, oil spill containment, weather modification, biochemical decontamination. Now, also remember this, evergreen plants can survive the winter months without losing their foliage. They do not drop their leaves to be reborn again in spring. They were going to destroy the population with an event, a war, a plague, a famine, kind of like what we see going on in China, in which humanity was destroyed and would need to be rebuilt. But they would never be able to lose control and would be able to reshape humanity and human culture in whatever image they wanted. Evergreen is code for the people who would ride out the event intact. It certainly sounds like what they've been planning and were attempting to do with the 16-year plan and much more. They wanted to destroy the United States, destroy the population of the world, and these elites were planning on repopulating after the rest of us were all gone. So, looks like Evergreen has several different non-standard definitions, and they're all kind of applicable. Now, considering that the post ends with "the silent war continues," I wanted to show you guys this document. This is something that I've known about for many, many years, and I've been looking for a way to talk about it here on the program, and this is the perfect time. Well, this document represents the doctrine adopted by the Policy Committee of the Bilderberg Group during its first known meeting in 1954. The following document was dated May of 1979. It was found on July 7th of 1986 in an IBM copier that had been purchased at a surplus sale, and it's entitled Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. Now, it says here the following document is taken from two sources. The first was acquired on a website, of which I can't remember the address, listing as its source the book titled Behold a Pale Horse by William Cooper. The second source is a crudely copied booklet which does not contain a copyright notice or a publisher's name. With the exception of a foreword, the preface, the main thing that was missing from the first source was the illustrations. As we begin comparing the two, we realize that the illustrations and the accompanying text made up a significant part of the document. This has now been restored by this organization right here, and they've put it out so that we can take a look at it. Now, what this document entails is basically a method by which these elites were planning to completely control us and remove us. They describe silent weapons. They talk about a variety of different methods that can be used to control and suppress a population, and in the end, basically remove us from the equation. Now, this is a very lengthy document, you guys, and it's something that I think everyone who is involved in this research needs to actually read. So what I'm going to do is is place the link to this document in the pinned comment below, and I want to encourage everybody to go and take a look for themselves. Now, here is an interesting description of a silent weapon. It says it shoots situations instead of bullets, propelled by data processing instead of chemical reaction, originating from bits of data instead of grains of gunpowder, from a computer instead of a gun, operated by a computer programmer instead of a marksman, under the orders of a banking magnate instead of a military general. It makes no obvious explosive noises, causes no obvious physical or mental injuries, and does not obviously interfere with anyone's daily social life. Yet it makes an unmistakable noise, causes unmistakable physical and mental damage, and unmistakably interferes with the daily social life, unmistakable to a trained observer who knows what to look for. The public cannot comprehend this weapon, and therefore cannot believe that they are being attacked and subdued by a weapon. The public might instinctively feel that something is wrong, but that is because of the technical nature of the silent weapon. They cannot express their feelings in a rational way, or handle the problem with intelligence. Therefore, they do not know how to cry for help, and do not know how to associate with others to defend themselves against it. When a silent weapon is applied gradually, the public adjusts, adapts to its presence, and learns to tolerate its encroachment on their lives until the pressure, psychological via economic, becomes too great and they crack up. Therefore, the silent weapon is a type of biological warfare. It attacks the vitality, options, and mobility of the individuals of a society by knowing, understanding, manipulating, and attacking their sources of natural and social energy, and their physical, mental, and emotional strengths and weaknesses. Now, for those of you who don't have time or otherwise are not inclined to read the full document, I'm going to ask you to join me on Friday night after my interview with Matt Couch. We're going to go over this document and some of the diagrams included herein on the live stream, and then we're going to be opening up the phones for you guys to call in and we can discuss it together. So I'll see you guys there. Now, I mentioned the attacks that were taking place on 8kun. Now, these are very sophisticated takedown attempts, and it's not just on 8kun, but it's on some of their infrastructure providers, the people who are providing services which allow 8kun to even exist in its current form. Now, in Post 3857, it says highly sophisticated state-level attacks versus 8kun, followed by fake news attacks versus our favorite Anon the very next day. Coordinated? I think so. Ask yourself a simple question. Why? It's time to wake up. Now let's take a look at a post from Gab from my good friend Neon Revolt. We were just talking about this yesterday, and he's got some information which highlights exactly the way in which these attacks took place. All right, now he said, just an FYI on the big DDoS attack that 8kun experienced the other day. I spoke to CodeMonkey briefly about this, and he said it was okay to share. Basically, the DDoS attack they received the other day was the biggest Ron has ever seen, and Ron is CodeMonkey. It took 8kun servers offline immediately. So they went to Van Tech to help mitigate, and boom, Van Tech goes offline as well. Van Tech is one of those providers of services which allows 8kun to exist. So Van Tech goes to their upstream provider, and it takes that out too. To quote Ron on the matter, it was attacking the physical hardware routers directly, so the attacker knew the exact physical layout of the entire operation up to the upstream of Van Tech's upstream. Did you catch that? The attack was so sophisticated, they knew the physical layout of the hardware this service provider had at their property. So then Van Tech's upstream provider went to their upstream provider, and they were finally able to mitigate the attack. Once again, to quote Ron, the attack today required many specialists and professional DDoS teams to fix. This kind of attack is, again, super sophisticated and incredibly expensive to pay off. We're not talking about some artard paying for a DDoS on a darknet market with Monero. We're talking about state-level operators here. Now the question becomes, who would have the resources and the motive to level such an attack? More importantly, what was our favorite Anon posting that freaked them out so much that made them decide to attack now? Very, very interesting. Clearly, you guys, the information being put out by this movement and our favorite Anon is so damaging to the people that are trying to keep us suppressed, the people who do not want us to know the truth. That includes the mainstream media, and that includes their deep state actors embedded therein through Operation Mockingbird. We're talking about the clowns in America, and I would not be surprised if there was other state-level sponsors that were involved in this attack. There is certainly deep state affiliation among many other governments on this planet. And the information we are helping to push out, that we are helping to spread, is so damaging to their way of life and to the current paradigm which keeps people asleep. They must do anything within their power to take it down and stop it from being disseminated. All right, now I want to thank Cyber for grabbing this for me. If I'm not mistaken, I think that this is the post that came out right before the attack. And if I'm wrong, then please, you guys, let me know. But remember, it asked us about why China and Qatar might be donating vast sums of money to our education institutions. And then there was the embedded article from justice.gov talking about the Harvard professor and the 2 Chinese nationals who were charged in 3 separate investigations. And we're asked, is it really so hard to believe that F actors are able to bribe those in key positions within the U.S. to betray their country? That would be foreign. So this is pretty damaging. And if this is the post that really brought it down, then that might mean that the attacks that came against 8kun could have come directly from China as well. All right, guys, I know that I am not tired of winning, and I bet you are not either. Every single day, it seems we are getting better and better news. Now, I want to close out by saying happy birthday to the most valuable Anon I know, my good friend and fellow researcher, Methods. Guys, if you have a Twitter account, make sure you head on over to his timeline, leave him a birthday wish, and let him know just how important he is to this movement. Each and every one of us has a super special role that we play, and we are not the same without each other. But Methods, thank you so much for everything that you've done, all the time, the energy that you give to this movement, because as far as I'm concerned, without your presence here, it's just not the same. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you today. I want to thank everyone for joining me. As always, this has been a Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless. Hey guys, it's Red Pill. Just one more thing. I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who has taken the time to support this channel. If you'd like to see some ways that you can support the channel, you can always check the show notes in the pinned comment of this video below. Whether you like, whether you share, whether you make sure that your notifications are on, any way that you support this channel means so much to me. I could not be doing this without you, and I could not do it without your help. Without people like you, this channel would not exist, so thank you so much to everyone for all of their many means of support. Don't forget to check out the merchandise store that is also in the pinned comment, and I will see you guys next time.